Greetings, chosen ones, peace and blessings to you all. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're out there being more than conquerors, doing great things out in your communities, for your friends, for your families, all for the glory of God. So today I'm going to be talking about the slippery slope we've been on, the creep of technology into our lives, the seductive charm of technology and how it's been effective in the social conditioning and the psychological conditioning of the population. So before we get into it, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already done so. Please leave me a like on this video, share this video with anyone you think would benefit from seeing it, and do leave me any comments in the comment section below. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get into it. So throughout history, there's been many stories in the culture, in folklore, about the dangers of accepting things that promise great improvements in life, great benefits. And we see in these stories that it's always a trap. So in The Lord of the Rings, they accepted the rings of power, just as the human population always accepts new technology on the promise that it's going to make life better, more convenient. But as we see from these movies, from these stories, there's always a warning in there, right? It's always a trap. Behind it all, behind the suggested benefits, we see that there's a trap. We see that there's a control system. And in these movies, they was offered these rings of power, but behind it was one ring to rule them all. And so it is with smartphones. When they were wheeled out originally, it was like, oh, these things are so great. You can do so much on them. But just as with the rings of power, there's one ring to rule them all. With the smartphones, it's one ringtone to rule them all. So we now have a generation of people that have grown up with these things and they don't know life without them. Now, I'm old enough to remember life without the smartphone. I'm going back to the early 2000s now. I mean, the smartphone kind of came in the late, 2000s. So I remember when the smartphone became a thing, I straight away noticed a change in people. Straight away, I was like, something is wrong with people. Something is off with people. And it was like a lack of social skills. But I kind of thought, well, is there something more going on? Because you wouldn't lose social skills as quickly as what I was noticing with people. So while there's clearly been a deterioration in social skills with the advent of the smartphone in conjunction with social media, I feel there's probably something else going on. There's probably a spiritual aspect to this. I'm going to be getting into that. Now we can see in this picture that there's a clear social engineering, psychological conditioning aspect to the smartphone. I mean, these are two pictures from concerts before smartphones and concerts now, and we see this is that people have developed a bond to these devices that they literally cannot experience anything in life without them. It's become a part of them, almost like a lens through which they have to experience the world. I feel that this has been part of the plan all along. As I've said in other videos, nothing in this world happens organically. There's always a plan behind it, a method to the madness. Now, obviously, this is just a picture of a concert, and obviously, there's a lot of social engineering that goes on around rock bands. which may be a subject for another video, but we're not going to get into that. I'm just using this to illustrate a point. So while putting together this video, I stumbled across this photo, and it was kind of interesting. It kind of illustrates what I'm talking about, and the difference we've seen in just a very short amount of years. How people literally cannot put these things down. They literally cannot experience life without the symbiotic relationship they have with these electronic devices. So we are seeing the zombification of human beings. I'd say most of these people are already pretty lost before the smartphone got a hold of them. But with younger people, with children, they're growing up with these things. So they're being conditioned, right off the bat. But with a lot of these people, it's like the kind of slack-jawed, empty gaze, no awareness of what is going on around them in the world. And this is a very important thing, just the general lack of awareness. Their entire focus is through the lens of what is presented through the screen of the smartphone, So rather than perceiving the world as it is, they are perceiving the world through their devices and through what they access on their devices, which will be social media, mainstream news media, all kinds of websites like that. So instead of using, their God-given senses and looking around them at what's going on, they're taking the word of the controllers for everything. They're using their smartphones to tell them what the truth is. They're looking up what the fact checkers are telling them. They're going on Google. I don't know if you've used Google lately, but, the internet has pretty much been shut down at this point. It's getting harder and harder to find any, impartial alternative information to what the Ministry of Truth wants you to see. And of course, with the smartphone comes the selfie and social media. So we're actually living in a narcissism epidemic right now. We're breeding narcissists. We're creating a world of narcissists who have no real identity outside of their smart devices. Everything is photographed, documented, has a filter put on it, all the best aspects, go onto social media. No reality to life, just a sterile, hollow facade. And this is what people are becoming. And it's all by design. And we see the kind of unconscious copycat behavior on things like TikTok, people doing dances, dancing nurses, remember that? I think a lot of that was a psyop as well, but that's how it always starts. And then, the zombies, they see that and they follow suit. So in the end, everyone's doing it. And this is another thing we see a lot is the stooped, humped posture. Just another aspect to this madness. And of course, you keep staring into that thing, eventually your head's going to fall off as that brain inside that head atrophies. So I thought I'd share these pictures of what is known as scrying mirrors. Now, scrying mirrors are used to contact spirits. Now, just take a look at these black mirrors, these scrying mirrors. Now, what do they look like? Isn't there similarity to smartphone screens? Pretty striking. And actually on this picture, one of them is a smartphone. So I'm wondering, with what I noticed in people, the personality changes in people, the kind of more zombified state, the lack of social skills, are they being possessed by spirits? Are spirits coming through these things? Now, obviously, a smartphone is a technological device, but is there a spiritual aspect to the smartphone? Are they also scrying mirrors? Are these devices allowing entry of unclean spirits into the person who spends all of their time gazing into the screen of a smartphone? It's said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So if you're spending all of your time staring into these things, is it possible that unclean or demonic spirits are able to possess a person? Now, anyone who's familiar with the Book of Enoch will have read it and know that it said that all technology has come from the fallen ones, the fallen angels. So I think that's rather interesting. So is this what we're seeing? Are we seeing mass possession, mass demonic possession through smartphone usage? Now, of course, on the technological side of these devices is the technology itself, smart technology, and SMART is actually an acronym: self-monitoring, analysis and reporting technology. So most of what we are doing through these devices is actually putting us under surveillance. All of that data is being captured, monitored, and they'll tell you your data's safe, but we know there's backdoors into everything they give us. And of course, just using these devices is getting us accustomed to having them with us all the time, having that surveillance all the time, having your whole identity tied to a device. And we saw in the last few years, didn't we, this attempt to push a health pass via your smartphone device. And that hasn't gone away because we are quickly moving towards what we know as the social credit system and your digital ID, which is tied to your smart device. Now, we've got this grinning model on the right, with his beaming smile showing, hey, I've got my smart device and I've got my digital ID. Life's good. Now contrast the grinning model on the right with the actual Chinese people on the left who've been told to smile for the camera as they hold up their social credit scores on their smartphones. And this is as much of a smile as they can muster. The kind of fake grimace. They're more grimaces than grins, right? And who can blame them? They're living in a surveillance state where everything they do is tied to their smart device, their digital ID, and their social credit score. And if you do things that aren't considered for the greater good, you might criticize the government on social media. You might have not done something that is state approved or state endorsed. Maybe you haven't had all the shots that they've told you to take. You'll be limited in how you can participate in society. Your travel might be limited. And of course, they got the facial recognition system. Now, this is being wheeled out everywhere now. Okay, China was the test bed for this, and now it's coming worldwide. And apparently, the UK, Britain, is one of the most surveilled states in the Western world. The Free West, as they call it. So what we're going to be having is a carbon credit score tied to your digital ID and your central bank digital currency, which will be programmable. This is all the stuff they have in the pipeline for us. And many have said, is this the beast system? And it probably is. And as we see, they're already pushing us towards a cashless society. Cash will be phased out and eventually removed from the system altogether. And obviously, when that happens, it will be the end of financial privacy. So, of course, everything you do will be monitored. Every purchase you make will be monitored. You'll have a carbon credit allowance. And if you go over that carbon credit allowance, you won't be able to make purchases, or you'll be forced to make alternative purchases. And your programmable money will have a finite lifespan, so you will have to spend it within the allotted time period, or it will disappear. So no chance of saving money. And any fines you do incur from any form of non-compliance will be debited directly, automatically from your account. So what we're heading towards is about total control. And as we've seen from the World Economic Forum, they've been pushing this 2030 agenda where you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. So you have to wonder who this person is that's posed for this picture. He kind of looks like he's probably been mind controlled. But on the right here is a member of the Danish Parliament. And we can see a kind of dead, lifeless eyes there, almost robotic. And that's probably closer to the truth than most realise. I think there's people living among us and people in prominent positions that aren't entirely human, as we would traditionally consider human beings. They're something else entirely that kind of look human on the outside, but as we see with cold, dead, robotic, lifeless eyes, there's probably no soul in there, probably some other entity entirely. But as we see, it's a slow drip of social conditioning, getting the masses, the normies, the lost on board, softened up. And what we are witnessing at the moment is a controlled demolition of the current world system, preparing the population for the coming beast system. And of course, there's a vast amount of normies out there, the lost, who've been programmed by the culture, by the technology, by the mainstream media, the education system, who just don't get it and actually think that all of this stuff is a good idea. And as we've seen with so many things over the last few years, you can't tell them. There's no real getting through to these people. They literally will only learn the hard way if they're not completely brainwashed into thinking that what they're living in is actually great. They support the current culture, the current thing. I think they have a stake in it. They don't seem to realise that at some point, if it hasn't already happened, they'll be thrown under the bus. And I'll be careful what I say here, but we saw over the last few years how those that went and did exactly what they were told by the government, by the system, went out and had the off switch installed in them. And now many have suffered and are suffering the consequences of that. Many of these lost people will see the trends, but will act as apologists and enablers for tyranny. Really, these people are as dangerous as they are tiresome, deeply in denial. They don't seem to get that the system is working against them. They're the perfect slaves. And if or when at some point realization does hit them, that's the point at which they'll be crying out to a God they never believed in for help. And of course, by then, it may be way too late. Now, a very prominent advisor at the World Economic Forum that is pushing this 2030 agenda is this creature, Yuval Noah Harari. And let's look at a few quotes from this individual. What a piece of work. Humans are now hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and nobody knows what's happening inside of them and they have free will, that's over. Well, this is how the minds of these psychopaths work. And this is where they want to take humanity. Human 2.0. Transhumanism. Something that is nothing more than a biological robot and possibly a vessel for a demon. He's a transhumanist and clearly a psychopath. But, in one sense, he's actually right. When human beings have no relationship with their creator and no grounding in biblical truth, then human beings are subject to whatever the culture is telling them, no matter what that is. Now, interestingly enough, he is a homosexual and he's Jewish, which kind of fits the criteria for a possible antichrist. Now, I'm not suggesting he is an antichrist, and we don't really know who or what that is going to be, but could it be AI, artificial intelligence, or someone with artificial intelligence embedded in them? I believe that artificial intelligence isn't really what we're being told. We're told it's computers learning, but really, is it just ghosts in the machine? Are these demons? Is this access to the demonic realm? Are they manifesting through computer systems, through software, through smart devices? Is this stuff really just a gateway from the demonic realm into our realm? We've recently seen D-Wave computers, where the person in charge of that project basically said that they were summoning demons through this thing. Something akin to the works of H.P. Lovecraft. So let's look at another quote from Yuval Noah Harari. Now, notice the language. They always use the term we, like we're all in it together, right? And it's a popular tactic that government use it all the time. They talk about we need to do this. We, like the use of we always stands out at me. And really what we should do when we read this quote is change that we to an I, as far as I can tell. Because we don't think this. Yuval, you think this. There's no we here, dude. As far as we can tell from a purely scientific viewpoint, human life has absolutely no meaning. Humans are the outcome of blind evolutionary processes that operate without goal or purpose. Our actions are not part of some divine cosmic plan. And if planet Earth were to blow up tomorrow morning, the universe would probably keep going about its business as usual. So we can see what kind of mindset we're dealing with here. Clearly someone who rejects God and rejects any kind of idea that man is made, humans are made in God's image. Something to be tinkered with, manipulated, merged with technology. Let's move on. Another quote, censorship no longer works by hiding information from you. Censorship works by flooding you with immense amounts of disinformation, of irrelevant information, of funny cat videos until you're just unable to focus. So isn't this exactly what we see on social media? In fact, all of these platforms now. If you're putting out the truth, you are shadow banned or literally banned. Meanwhile, someone who is putting up videos of stuffing marshmallows up their nostrils or something will be pushed to the front of everyone's feeds. These videos will rack up millions of views, whereas anything of real value and importance is sidelined or just outright banned. And this is where we are now. And this is exactly what's going on. So they'll literally censor you by sidelining you and pushing those cat videos to the front, or someone lighting their own farts, something like that. So another quote from this piece of work. Yuval Noah Harari spills the beans. We just don't need the vast majority of the population. Well, a lot of us who are paying attention already know that they don't need the vast majority of the population. And here it is. Technology will make it possible to replace people. The only reason they've been keeping people around is to make money off of them, to get them to build the culture into what it currently is, build the infrastructure, get it all in place, milk them for taxes to fund it all. Now they don't need them anymore. Top World Economic Forum advisor Yuval Noah Harari has declared in a recent interview that the vast majority of the world's 7.5 billion people are simply no longer needed due to technological advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and bioengineering. Here you go. Let's move on. Morality doesn't mean following divine commands. It means reducing suffering. Hence, in order to act morally, you don't need to believe in any myth or story. You just need to develop a deep appreciation of suffering. So, of course, by reducing suffering, what they really mean is putting people out of their misery, right? And we're seeing that, with assisted suicide, and this again will become the norm, as it was presented in the movie Soylent Green. People could go to the euthanasia centre to be euthanized. Just another way of getting the population down, on top of all the other methods they've used and are using. And one more from this piece of work. World Economic Forum speaker Yuval Noah Harari, COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. We are really acquiring divine powers. Now, can you see the God complex going on here? These people, and I use that term loosely, creatures, consider themselves gods upon the earth. And of course, they reject the one true God and are in fact at war with the one true God. So let's move on to this character, this Elon Musk. Now, a lot of people have fallen under the spell of this one. Right? Seems to think he's got your best interests at heart, and that's the power of public relations, power of the media in people's minds. Now, this is the next stage, when the smartphone will be seen as, just too inconvenient, right? So now they're going to put something in your body. This Neuralink is being developed, has been developed. I would argue it's been waiting in the wings for quite a while, and now they're wheeling it out into the public awareness, and they're going to say, isn't it amazing? Look, it's making paralyzed people walk. This amazing technology. But of course, this is just how it's put in the public awareness and normalized. It gets the public, the lost, used to it, accepting of it. And bit by bit, it becomes seen as entirely normal to have this electronic device inserted into your body. And this comes after that something else that was also put into people's bodies over the last 2 years under the guise of a medical emergency. Now, I don't believe this character, Elon Musk, is anything other than a company mascot, in the same way that Ronald McDonald is a company mascot to McDonald's. He's not the actual owner and CEO. He's just the front man, the face of McDonald's. In the same way, Elon Musk, I think, is nothing more than a company mascot. The front man for the sinister organisation behind all this. In the same way that Zuckerberg was nothing more than a front man for Facebook. That it's pretty clear from this article that Elon Musk has been groomed and prepared for the role that he's playing now. with, SpaceX and all the rest of it, which in my opinion is all just psyops anyway. It's all fake, everything. But it's to present this person as enigmatic billionaire. And again, he's no different to what Ronald McDonald is to McDonald's, right? Here we see in this article, in 1953, a scientist said the title of the leader of a Martian government would be Elon. Now it's all about SpaceX and, we're going to go to Mars and all of this BS. And it's all fake, but it's putting Elon Musk, on the map. I mean, a few years ago, no one even knew who he was, right? Suddenly he's come out of nowhere. He's all everywhere, right? So this is an article and it's about Operation Paperclip, Nazi NASA scientist Werner von Braun, who wrote a book way back in 1953. And the character in that book was called Elon. What a coincidence, right? And isn't it interesting? Let's just read a little bit here. Right? And Elon Musk made a tweet about destiny. Right? He tweeted, "Destiny, destiny, no escaping that for me." Yeah, how true is that? Right? It's all been scripted ahead of time. Right? But, I don't want to get too far off topic on this. So, let's move on. So here we are. Elon Musk's Neuralink says it has FDA approval for human trials. What to know? So they're moving forward with this. So whether this thing is the actual thing or it's just putting it in the public awareness and it was some other thing that they wheel out, fact is that they want to get this thing in people. They want to get people used to it. They want to get this thing in their bodies, under their skin, right? Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain implant company, said Thursday evening that it had regulatory approval to conduct the first clinical trial of its experimental device in humans. Now, here's the thing. Whatever they present you with on the mainstream media is in all likelihood to be completely stage theatre, right? You're going to say, oh, this guy, he was paralysed and now he can walk. For all we know, it's an actor, and this is the thing. Most of what we see in the mainstream media is theatre. I would say at least 98% of what you're presented with in the mainstream media as news is completely fabricated. And many might disagree with that, but this is the power of television. This is the power of the media. It owns people's minds. So really, that's all this video is about, is just to show how we got here, how, we're moving forward at breakneck speed. But none of these ideas that they're pushing out now into society, into the culture is new. This is a picture from the film Metropolis, which was made in 1927, and here we can see the themes of transhumanism. There's a scene where a woman is melded with a robot, and here we can see the inverted pentagram in the background. Nothing new under the sun. None of this is new. And it probably goes all the way back to the prophecy, of the interpretation of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, interpreted by Daniel. The mixing of iron and clay. Iron being the technological aspect and the clay being the human aspect. And of course we know it won't ultimately end well for them and for all of the loss that they drag into their system. For the believers, for the chosen, we are waiting for this, to get off of this place, to get out of it. Right? And we don't know when that's going to be or how exactly that's going to happen. But that's what we are putting our expectation on. because we see this juggernaut moving forward, and we know that human efforts, the efforts of fallen humanity, hasn't got the stuff required to halt this. And really, can anything halt this? It's just prophecy playing out, isn't it? It's got to run its course. So we've got to stay the course. We've just got to keep going, keep focused, keep our eyes on Christ, keep moving forward every day, and be vigilant, be watchmen, pay attention to what's going on. So as always, dress for success, put on the whole armour of God, helmet of salvation, breastplate of righteousness, belt of truth, feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, carrying the sword of the Spirit and the shield of faith, to stand against all the wiles of the devil, to quench every fiery dart of the wicked. No weapon formed against us shall prosper, in Jesus' mighty name. So I think I'll leave it there. So if you like this video, please leave a like. Do consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already done so. Do share this video with anyone you think will benefit from seeing it. Do leave me any comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you again on the next video.